I just don't believe that's the case. You know, this is a constitutional amendment. It's worded very carefully, and it's very clear that it's for medical purposes and for people that are suffering from pain. That's why I support it, and that's why I'm going to vote for it, and I hope everybody does.
Everywhere we had a pill mill, we're going to have a pot shop.
Having a child with intractable epilepsy, you have to share that. When you find something's working, you have to share that news.
All right, opium is a plant, okay? They figured out this plant has certain qualities we can make medicine with, and it treats people, okay? The same thing holds true with cannabis. It's a plant, we can derive compounds from it, we can take those compounds and make medicine with them.
A lot of people will be hurt by Amendment 2.
Well, that's a good one.
At Christmas after the third surgery. So we were pretty hopeful. She was scooting around on the floor even though she wasn't using her left arm, which they told us might be a side effect of surgery. She could move herself all around, and she was doing pretty good. We decided to try one more medicine. In less than 9 months, that's what happened to her.
Annalise Clark never knew if anything would stop her daughter's seizures. At the budding age of 10, her daughter Christina has been prescribed 16 medications and has already undergone a corpus callosotomy and a functional hemispherectomy. All of the above has caused more damage than good.
The 3 medicines that she tried last year were not urinating, constipation, inability to sleep, altering your taste buds, and I could go on.
Like losing the ability of her left arm and consuming food by mouth. Christina, now nonverbal and unable to walk, experiences 1 to 2 grand mal seizures a day. On a bad day, as many as 6.
Meaning she had seizures all night, then she wakes up in the morning and she's groggy, she can't hold her head up, she breaks out in sweats, she's not functionable, drooling really bad. It's just, so we want more good days and bad days.
But just when Annalise thought she exhausted all options, she learned of Sanjay Gupta's CNN story about marijuana reducing seizures in one Colorado girl. Finally, a sign of relief. She called Colorado last September, only to find out she would be put on a 5-month waiting list to receive medical marijuana if she moved there. When Christina got worse, she called again in December. That 5-month waiting list grew to 10. Again, running out of options, she had a friend send her marijuana, illegally.
After 5 days, she stopped seizing. And within 10 days, she was trying to eat, and within 20 days, she was playing on the floor, and 30 days, she was trying to walk. So I ran out, and they sent me something different, because of course, not able to get consistent the same thing. And she made it 60 days with just 1 seizure, and started to play with toys that I hadn't seen her play with, and it was fantastic.
Unfortunately for Christina and other intractable epilepsy patients in Florida, the only medicine that worked for her is illegal in this state. Luckily, the tides are somewhat changing. The Florida legislature passed a bill this year, which Governor Rick Scott signed, for a non-euphoric strain of marijuana to treat patients suffering from cancer, seizures, and muscle spasms. This is what's causing tension this election season. The Florida Right to Medical Marijuana Initiative, better known as Amendment 2. It allows the medical use of marijuana for individuals with debilitating diseases as determined by a licensed Florida physician. Organizations like Vote No on 2 and Don't Let Florida Go to Pot formed to fight the amendment. They claim the amendment's language has loopholes, thus making it easier to acquire recreational marijuana, practically legalizing it.
This particular subject is really creating medicine by public opinion.
Because it was a ruse. It's not about debilitating medical conditions, it's for anything.
But what we want to do is identify the drug that's in the chemical that's in the marijuana plant that may be beneficial to people, and then run the proper studies on it to prove it. Observational studies prove nothing.
Dr. Michael Forstafel spoke at this Don't Let Florida Go to Pot press conference as well.
There is no disease out there short of that one type of seizure disorder in kids. There's no disease out there which medical marijuana is the treatment of choice. Okay, there are other treatments for everything that we have. I would argue better treatments for everything.
Philip Castellucci, however, begs to differ.
I hope I could cut back on the opiates because I'm really afraid of them, and I know that they'll shorten my life.
Philip volunteers with the advocacy group backing the amendment, United for Care. He's been doing so for about a year. While working as a correctional officer sergeant in a maximum security prison, an inmate attacked him.
Not the face I was born with. The state of Florida bought me this one.
It left him with a broken neck and multiple face and skull fractures. As a result, he suffers from debilitating headaches. One day he was having an insurmountable headache. A friend offered him some marijuana. After taking it, his headache vanished. Now, he educates voters on why people like himself need it, because doing it illegally is out of the question.
All I want is my doctor to be able to tell me, Phil, I think this will help you. And then I don't have to worry about going to jail for it.
With millions of dollars pouring in to defeat this initiative, he's taking the high road, trying his best to clear up rumors.
Most of the things that you've seen on the commercial where it says, they should be called the drug dealers, that's crap. The things that they show you there on that's not in that amendment. Those are things that they thought up and put on TV. The amendment says most of the things they're concerned about would be addressed by the Department of Health.
Yet, the opposition objects. What's the truth? Here's the top 3 things you should know about Amendment 2.
A rulemaking authority and future legislation cannot make this more restrictive. They cannot add, for example, the age of 18 or parental consent on a qualifying patient.
True, but not so fast. Like Philip said, the fears they have would be determined by the Department of Health. The amendment says the department shall issue reasonable regulations necessary for the implementation and enforcement of this section.
The teenager loophole. Under Amendment 2, teens will be able to legally purchase pot without their parents' consent because they will be able to get it through that caregiver who can go to the certified dispensary and pick it up.
False. Currently, a parent or guardian must provide consent for medical treatment for a minor, except in emergencies or when the Department of Children and Family Services imposes. And of the 23 states that have medical marijuana, 4 do not mention minors in the language, but they all require parental involvement.
Amendment 2 not only legalizes the sale of pot, it also legalizes an entire marijuana industry.
Not true, but we see their point. The proposal says nothing in this section shall affect laws relating to non-medical use, possession, production, or sale of marijuana. But by looking at 4 of the 23 states, it seems passing medical marijuana is a precursor to lawfully lighting up.
Well, there's always Charlotte's Web.
Is what you'll also hear. Charlotte's Web, meaning the Compassionate Medical Cannabis Act of 2014. It is the non-euphoric low tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, high cannabidiol, CBD, strain of marijuana. Holly Mosley became the face of the strain in Florida and held educational symposiums like this one. But even when medical marijuana experiences its highs, the lows quickly follow. After 2 nurseries and the Florida Medical Cannabis Association challenged the rules the Department of Health established for the drug, a judge told them to rewrite their policies, possibly delaying access to the medicine for months. But the blows keep coming. The law only requires 0.8% or less of THC and 10% or more of CBD. This set amount is not guaranteed to treat your condition.
CBD, low THC, is not going to work the same for every kid. Everybody in this room who has children with epilepsy knows there's more of an art to treating epilepsy than the science. There's a combination of things that there has to be this handshake between the medicines. Which I learned.
And for that reason, if Amendment 2 doesn't pass, you're back to square one.
So different compounds and chemicals react differently in everybody's personal chemistry.
Rosalind and Dennis Deckerhoff's 19-year-old son, Barrett, also has intractable epilepsy and is nonverbal. He was put on an ACTH steroid, which worked for 11 months but was toxic for his body. They tried a series of medications that had serial side effects.
He, will run into a wall with his elbow if he just gets too close to a wall, walk into his bedroom. He can't lift a leg without having to hold on to something because his balance is so askew. And I fully feel that that's a result of the medicine that he's on.
Eventually, Barrett had a vagus nerve stimulation in 2002 and a corpus callosotomy in 2010.
And that was obviously a very last resort.
Yeah, it was like...
It took us a very long time to come to that decision.
The seizures continued. He had this one right when we began filming.
That was pretty mild, actually. He didn't go all out.
Like Annalise, they found out about marijuana as a treatment for epilepsy from CNN. They agreed if Barrett was 2, they would probably go to Colorado. But since so many years have passed, it makes it difficult.
18 years later, it's a different decision to make that kind of change in your life when you have other children and he's settled and there's not a lot of chance. I mean,
we have
the
great
chances
support
of
here.
the chances of
her parents,
reversing
my parents.
damage are, is not likely.
So bringing some relief to Florida would be a luxury.
I think that if we can control the distribution of medical marijuana and use it for something that's more positive, then I think they can have a greater outcome for that.
I voted for Amendment 2 for health reasons. I have family members that would actually take use for this.
Florida voters rejected Amendment 2, which would have legalized medical marijuana.
It received only 58% of the vote. It needed 60 to pass.
The hopes of many were defeated on November 4th. Because Charlotte's Web is limited and facing roadblock, Floridians won't have access to the various strains of marijuana. Would passing a bill do?
I really do think that there is an opportunity for the Florida legislature at some time to deal with this issue in a modern way.
Representative Matt Gaetz sponsored the Compassionate Medical Cannabis Act. He said a majority of the legislature sees marijuana as medicine, as long as a system is properly in place. He supports exploring marijuana's other chemicals for medical use.
As we do research that the state of Florida is now going to fund, if we learn that I got it wrong, which is very possible, we ought to make sure that we adjust those ratios to ensure that we're able to do the most good for Floridians.
Until their hard work is brought to fruition, Annalise, Philip, Rosalind, and Dennis don't mind being the face of this medicine. Every time they tell their testimony, they won't be blowing smoke.
She's had to relearn to crawl and walk 5 times, and she's not able to do either right now. The last time I went to the neurologist, I was told that it's time to believe in God. There's nothing left we can do for you.
Instead, they are speaking for the ones who have been silenced.
We're moving forward for other kids. We have hope. We just want a better quality of life.
Or the ones who can't speak for themselves.
27,000 people are going to die this year from opiates, between liver destruction, kidney disease, accidental overdoses. 27,000 people are going to die this year. Do you know how many people have ever died from marijuana overdose?